For Robin Hood, in the dance sequences, Maid Marian is doing the same dance that Snow White does. So this is the dance sequence from Snow White, and there's a lot of great things in it. One is the animation of the dwarves, and they have a great amount of what you would call squash and stretch in them that makes them look like they have fluidity and weight, and it's always great. So Happy is a slightly heavier character, and you can feel the weight in his belly as he's doing his bits. Freddie Moore animated Dopey on top of Sneezy, you know, when they put the long coat over themselves and they dance at Snow White's height. And the drawings are so appealing and so organic. And the dance animation on Snow White was actually based on live action. They found a live action dancer, her name was Marge Belcher, and she was the model for the animation of Snow White dancing here. This shot from Pinocchio is the camera moved down into Geppetto's village, and it's what we call a great multi-plane shot, meaning that the various levels of depth were painted on separate layers of glass. And as the camera got closer and closer to those levels, they would become less focused, and the levels behind those glass layers would become sharper, giving you the impression that you're actually traveling three-dimensionally through the scene, which was very, very difficult to do in hand-drawn animation. And in fact, although most of the multiplane shots were vertical, this one was actually horizontal. They set this up on a horizontal table, I think because it had so many levels that they could control it better to actually make the camera move horizontal rather than vertical. For Robin Hood, they actually used some earlier animation as the basis for their newer animation. You know, you can see Little John is dancing like Baloo in the Jungle Book. And also in the dance sequences, Maid Marian is doing the same dance that Snow White does. And I think they did that for economy reasons more than anything else. It's like, we've already got good dancing, so let's go ahead and use that, you know, in another context with different characters. It's not the first time that Disney has used earlier scenes in later pictures. If you cut to a close-up of a deer, chances are it's Bambi's mother, you know, that they've used earlier. There's a sequence in the Jungle Book where Baloo is chasing King Louie around the temple, and that is from the chase in Wind in the Willows, where they're trying to go after the will that everybody's trying to catch. So I think everybody working on those films knew the history and knew what they had as, you know, material that they could use, and they went ahead and used it. They would have to re-clean up the drawings to work with the style and the characters that they were doing, you know, in the current film, but it was kind of a strong basis for them to start with. Should they have done it from scratch? That depends on your point of view. But, you know, it was probably an economy measure more than anything else. This sequence from The Lion King shows the wildebeest stampede, and the wildebeests were actually handled in CG animation, but made to look like they are drawn characters. And actually my good friend Scott Johnston was the guy who actually did that in this film. And he was also part of the ballroom sequence, which was also CGI in Beauty and the Beast, where Beast and Belle are dancing and we're moving this swooping camera move around the environment. The very first usage of computer animation in a Disney film was in The Great Mouse Detective, where they did the gears inside of the clock Big Ben, you know, as computer animation. And at that time, they actually had to print out the outlines of the computer animation onto cells and paint them like cells to get them to marry with the hand-drawn, cel-painted characters who were working on them. When we were working on The Princess and the Frog, we felt like we had a lot riding on it because, the studio hadn't done traditional animation for some time. They decided to go back and do that for The Princess and the Frog, and we all knew how important it was for the film to be successful, and we gave our all. We actually worked overtime and really tried to make it as beautiful and as entertaining as we possibly could, because we knew that the future of hand-drawn animation at Disney kind of rested on it.